Tonight in Dimension, the Minneapolis music scene desperately seeking Seattle.
A few years back, the Pacific Northwest region emerged on the national music scene, led by flannel-clad bands Nirvana and Pearl Jam. The New York Times recently speculated on which American city would be the next pop music hotspot, the next Seattle. Places where the local music is exciting enough to generate some national hits. Well, one of the cities on the short list, Minneapolis.
Scott Reynolds explains why in tonight's Dimension.
Minneapolis. They're calling it the next Seattle. Some local music watchers say that reference is not only backwards, but 10 years too late.
I find it very ironic that now the New York Times is saying, will Minneapolis be the next Seattle, when I think Seattle became the next Minneapolis. I mean, this was a real viable and very important music scene way before Seattle's music scene existed.
It's Maggie McPherson's job to follow local music. From a tiny basement office in the Uptown Bar, she tries to figure out what bands people will pay to see.
Hello.
Then she hires them to play. On this night, it's the Floorshakers. The selection at Garage Door Record Store proves how much easier it is for new bands to get their music recorded. The store carries a few hundred local titles. Quantity, yes. Quality, well...
It covers the spectrum from god-awful to fabulous.
As for the kind of music that's put Minneapolis on the map, manager Jim Peterson says it's thoughtful, albeit basic stuff.
I'd say here there's a stronger emphasis on songwriting than in a lot of places, but it's pretty standard, like 2 guitars, bass, and drums, kind of rock and roll.
The new Minneapolis sound isn't as funky as Prince, or as raw as local punk heroes Husker Du. It's best described as poppy. Example, Waiting by the Hang-Ups. And this summer, local radio listeners can hear plenty of the new homegrown tunes. Cities 97 has long played local music. Now, 2 new alternative stations, 93.7 The Edge and Rev 105 are spinning Minnesota music as well.
Well, it's those charismatic darlings of the Twin Cities, Zuzu's Pedals, When No One's Looking, the name of the release.
At Rev 105, DJs play at least one local song every hour. Program director Kevin Cole says it's easy, given the vast amount of music to choose from.
Yeah, there's over 400 here. And that really is just scratching the surface.
Cole believes radio play can make all the difference for fans, bands, and club owners.
And you can create a buzz with radio real quick. Okay, if you like a record and you get on it and you play it, in a short period of time, you could sell out a show.
That's what gets the economic wheels turning. Fans who see Nova Mob at the 7th Street entry one night may buy the band's CD the next day. Phil Lindsay specializes in arts for the Minneapolis Community Development Agency. He says the general public forgets the music scene isn't just entertainment, it's a business.
The number that some of us have seen, and we haven't corroborated, is something like $650 million in the metro area comes out of the music industry. And that would be everything from the small bar venue up to the large recording studio and everything in between.
Phil Lindsay says it's not uncommon for fans to travel all the way from Fargo to see concerts here in the Twin Cities. And for every dollar they spend at clubs like First Avenue, according to Lindsay, that dollar is respent 7 times before it leaves the local economy. So the men and women who make the music can't afford to think of it purely in artistic terms. Brett Gross of the band Milk.
Just the whole money issue comes into play whether you like it or not, you know. So making records, selling records, you want to understand how that works so you don't get taken advantage of.
But a successful music scene does more than just make money. It enhances a city's reputation.
It gives a different identity in a cultural sense. This is where there's really good music done. This is where, you know, you go to New York to go to Broadway, some people do. You go to Minneapolis to check out the band?
For Dimension, I'm Scott Reynolds.
Minneapolis has stiff competition for the title of Next Seattle. Other cities with promising local talent include Atlanta, Georgia, Austin, Texas, Louisville, Kentucky, and the city next to Seattle, Portland, Oregon.